Yo! In this video, I'll talk about how artifacts actually work, so their main stats, their substats, and what most artifact sets do. So, let me get right into it. We have the flower, which gives a flat amount of HP, the feather, which gives a flat amount of attack. These two are the only ones that can't change their main stat, they're stuck with flat HP and flat attack. And then we have suns, goblet, and circlet. Apart from attack percent, HP percent, defense percent, TM, which all of them can get, there is also specific stats, such as damage bonus from goblets, ER from suns, or crit stats on your circlet. Anyway, before talking about optimizing it even further, let me first clear a common misconception. Attack percent, HP percent, defense percent scale off your base stats, as in the stats you get from leveling your character or your weapon. Flat bonuses just add more to your final value after your percentages get calculated. All artifacts can get 4 substats that have different values ranging from a min roll to a max roll. So the difference between one artifact and another can be determined by the substats. Most people will judge an artifact based on the crit rolls it has. It is calculated as 2 times crit rate plus your crit damage. So if a character has 10 crit rate and 10 crit damage, the crit value would be 30. Crit isn't all there is to an artifact though. There's also a roll value, which is a little bit more complicated to calculate. You don't really need to know how to calculate, because it is already shown on third-party sites. But you can estimate it based on how many good stats you got per artifact. Those good stats of course being attack percent, EM, ER, crit, or other stats that you can use. I did mention in my previous vid that ER is useful if you aren't yet at your ER requirement. Keep in mind while building characters that some ER rolls aren't useless, they're actually needed if you want to burst every rotation. ER rolls are needed way more on off-field characters. There's also characters who don't care about their burst at all, so ER on them is kinda useless. Okay, so let's say 2 artifacts both got 1 roll into crit rate. Even though they got the same stat roll, the value they got might differ. You mostly need to know crit rate and crit damage substat rolls, so I will use them as an example. Crit rate has a minimum of 2.7 and a max of 3.9, while crit damage has a minimum of 5.4 and a maximum of 7.8. That's also where the crit rate times 2 plus crit damage equals crit value comes from. Anyway, all stats have different values from each other, also it isn't like you can get everything ranging from 2.7 to 3.9. There's only 4 different rolls you can get: a min roll, a medium roll, a high roll, and a max roll. For crit rate they would be 2.7, 3.1, 3.5 and 3.9. But ultimately, if you're unlucky and you get defense percent on your attack scaling character, the artifact is still worse than a min roll on a stat you actually want. So keep in mind that an artifact might be better than another, simply because it got luckier on the value of the rolls that it got. Anyway, when building your characters, I want you to view your damage kinda like a shape, with the sides corresponding to your different stats, like what your character scales with. I'll call this effective attack, your crit multiplier, your damage bonus, and your reaction damage. So yeah. The more of one you have, the less of an increase in damage it will give, since your total damage would be the area of this shape. So having a more balanced stat distribution might be the way to do more damage. Of course, this isn't 100% accurate, since some characters can ignore EM, since they don't have reactions, and most characters want enough ER as well, but in general, it's a pretty good way to think about it. So to conclude, to build characters, apart from levels, talents, weapon levels, etc., the other important thing is getting artifacts with good substats, as in high rolls on stats that you can use, like attack percent, EM, ER, crit, or any other stats that your character needs. Okay, but what about the different artifact sets? There are so many. How would I know what sets are good and what sets are not good? We can group them into categories: supportive sets that help your party, and DPS sets, which give stats to your characters to do even more damage. Let me get supportive sets out of the way first. Viridescent Vener's most important aspect of it is the 40% elemental shred it can provide for the team. It's a big damage increase, so if the team uses an Anemo character, it will 100% use VV as well. Anyway, the set is extremely good. If you don't have a VV set, you might want to fix that. Deepwood Memories is basically the Dendro variant of VV, It's used in all Dendro teams because of the 30% shred to Dendro damage. This of course also applies to transformative reactions. It is similar to VV in terms of value. Tenacity of the Millet gives attack to your team and also buffs shield strength. Characters who can hit enemies with an elemental skill while off-field mostly use it. The set is kinda useful, but it depends if you have characters who can use it. Noblesse Oblige is a set that buffs the attack of your party members after using your burst. It's a really useful set that can be used in a lot of teams. Archaic Petra gives a damage bonus to the element used to proc a crystallize reaction. It's a good set just for damage, but it's kinda tricky to use in most teams. It can also only be used by Geo supports. The funny thing is that this set just got power crept by the new Natlan support set, Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City, since it gives 40% damage bonus to all elements that were used to proc a reaction. Because of how it works, you can potentially buff more than 2 elements, but it is locked behind your character being from Natlan, which right now is kind of a big deal. It's still a good thing, since Archaic is locked behind your character being Geo, which is arguably worse. Also, you can use this set on somebody who is not from Natlan, but you will gain way less from it. The 2-piece bonus gives energy to the equipping character if a Night Soul burst is triggered, aka a Natlan character deals elemental damage. This set is new, but from the looks of it, it will be extremely important later in the Natlan patches. Instructor is very good, even though it is a 4-star set, because of the 120 EM buff that it gives, a whole lot of teams can use it. Exile is the other notable 4-star set. It is less useful than Instructor, but it has its uses, because you can generate energy for the other party members. You can consider the following 3 sets healer sets because of the 15% healing bonus that the 2-piece bonus gives, and the fact that only healers use it. Maiden's Beloved is probably the worst of the healer sets. The only thing that it gives is even more healing, but apart from that, it's pretty useless. Ocean Hued Clam basically creates a new damage source that scales off the healing of your character. So if you need a little bit of extra healing, Ocean Hued Clam is a good choice. Song of Days Past will buff your next 5 hits by an amount of the healing that you did, including overheals. This set is a solid choice as well. All of these 3 are still healer sets. They help somewhat, but not as much as a normal supportive set like VV, Deepwood or any other. Then the rest are all DPS sets used by different characters. Since there are so many, I won't explain each and every one of them, but I will explain some which are more versatile. Emblem of the Severed Fate is a set which buffs your burst damage depending on how much ER you have, while also giving you some ER. Characters like Raiden, Xiangling, Yelan, Xingqiu, etc. love this set since they need to build ER anyway and most of their damage comes from their burst. In the same domain we have Shimenawa, which is basically the reverse of the previous set, in the sense that it takes away energy from you after using your elemental skill to buff your normal charged and plunge attack damage by 50%. The fact that it gives attack percent as a 2-piece is good since most of the characters which can use this set also scale on attack. Some characters which can use this set are Yoimiya, Ganyu and even Hutao. Even though she scales on HP, it's still a solid option because of the stats that it gives. Moving on, we have Gilded Dreams, an EM 2-piece set that gives both attack and EM, very useful for quicken characters, and the EM buff is good enough for characters like Hyperbloom triggers to do the damage they're supposed to. Because of the way Dendro teams are built, the attack and EM buffs that are given based on the elements of the character and the rest of the party, you don't need to worry about how much attack and EM you get. Characters who use this set are Alhaitham, Chlorinde, Onfiliae, basically quicken carries, or characters who trigger transformative reactions like Full EM Raiden, Cookie, Burgeon Toma, and even Nilu Bloom triggers. Anyway, after that we have Marechaussee Hunter, which is probably the most versatile set in the game because of Furina's HP drain enabling this set on any character in the game as main DPS. It gives a very good 36% crit rate, and the 2-piece is also a good damage bonus. The other set in the same domain, Golden Troupe, gives a lot of damage percent to your elemental skill. If the character does damage from off-field, it gives even more. So it is mainly used by off-field characters, but some characters like Navia can either use it in a quick-swap team or as just a 2-piece. Obsidian Codex is a new Natlan set. It gives a whopping 40% crit rate and 15% damage bonus for free, but only Natlan characters can use it. Since it gives so many stats, I'm willing to bet that this would be the best in slot set for any Natlan on-field characters. Anyway, these are the most quote-unquote useful sets in the game. Characters can use more than one set most of the time. For example, Hutawa can go both Crimson Witch and Shimenawa, and if she's played with Furina, she can also go Marechaussee. Also, most characters can also use 2-piece sets. So half of one set, half of the other, just for the 2-piece buffs that the sets give. So if you ever find yourself having 2 good artifacts from the same set, going 2-piece might be worth it. I leave the Genshin Optimizer link down in the description below. Once again, don't forget to like the video, and thanks for watching.